What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 131 of Noodle Time. I'm your host, Mark Segovia, alongside Ondrej Naranjo. What's going on, Ondrej?
Mark, pretty good, man. It's been a while, a couple weeks, and a lot has happened on the Dynamo one.
A lot has happened.
We're gonna talk about it, and it should be pretty eventful.
For sure, man. A lot has happened since the last show, man. Obviously, last week it was me and Eric. We had a little bit of technical difficulties last week, but we were able to manage through and pull through and get all that stuff situated technically. But new week. Some good news, some terrible news.
Yep.
I think maybe we should start out with the terrible news. So with that being said, the terrible news is, guys, Ondrej Tarbell is out for the season, tore ACL. Our number one goalkeeper who replaced Steve Clark this season is out for the remaining of the season. Right now, Jerry Meyer is our goalkeeper with Blake Gillingham as the backup keeper at this particular moment. Obviously, he saw minutes yesterday against El Salvador, and he saw minutes obviously against who did we play this past week? I can't even remember
RSL.
who we played. RSL, that's right.
Yeah.
But with that being said, Ondrej Tarbell out. Andres, your initial thoughts on them? I mean, such a kind of bad luck for a player who, for the majority of his career, has been a backup and given the opportunity to finally get regular first team minutes, and be that primary keeper. Not what you're looking for.
Honestly, I was shocked with the news and honestly heartbroken because I know Tarbell, he's been saying it throughout the lead up to the season that he kind of earned his spot already, and the club did everything it could to at least give him that opportunity. He did earn it towards the Open Cup win, as we saw a couple years ago, and last year in the opportunities that he got. It's extremely disappointing, extremely unfortunate, unlucky. Even I was right in front of where the injury happened, especially with the type of landing. That was what I feared the most, because whenever you land like that, even if it's just like a weird motion or like just like a usual, like a common fall that you do, and you fall like that hole in your knee, that's usually a bad sign. And I was literally praying that it wasn't gonna be that type of injury, but unfortunately it was. And it was kind of reported by OSG after the game, because I was in the press conference, but OSG told me that, hey, I know Tarbell's in crutches right now, and I was like, oh no. And I fear the worst. It is 100% unfortunate. Another headache to deal with for Dynamo, and it's just a really, really bad for Dynamo right now, especially with the timing of it.
Yeah, shout out OSG. It's one of those things when it's like the old saying, when it rains, it pours, and right now it's pouring. It's pouring for the Dynamo. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Wrong clip. Right now it's pouring for the Dynamo, and it doesn't look like it's gonna let up anytime soon. I mean, it's just one thing after another. I obviously for Tarbell as for himself personally and professionally, such bad luck, to finally have the opportunity to showcase. I mean, obviously as the backup, and in the few times that he was called upon, and obviously throughout the U.S. Open Cup run in 2022, when he was the winning keeper, he obviously shown and proved that he had the capabilities of being a number one. And obviously, with Steve Clark kind of maybe being aged out and Tarbell being there, Ben Olsen and the club had all the confidence in the world to allow Tarbell to be our number one keeper. Because realistically speaking, I mean, obviously we've talked about the offseason, and they didn't seem too concerned about looking for a keeper. I mean, we let obviously Steve Clark go. Xavier Valdez, which was another keeper that we had under us last year, was let go as well. And Tarbell was really handed the keys as soon as last season ended, and we were looking forward to it. I mean, is Tarbell the most athletic goalkeeper we've had? No. Is he the most gifted? Not necessarily, but I mean, but he was sound, and in the league, you just need that strong presence between the goalposts, and I think he provided that. But just an unfortunate injury for him, and obviously we wish him the best, the well wishes, and a speedy recovery and all that good stuff. For all the times that I've come across him, and he seems like a great guy. Kind of down to earth and very chill individual. So shout out to Andrew Tarbell, and hopefully he gets a speedy recovery. But with that being said, I mean, look, I mean, we lost our DP captain, Ache. We sold our best up and coming center back in Mikael. Coco is out there killing it in Liga MX. Shevchenko, who's our other captain, dealing with injuries. Escobar's coming back. But I mean, what do we do? I mean, as far as like the goalkeeping world now, right? I mean, obviously, Jamie Meyer, he's 36 years old. Like backup last year for FC Frisco, kind of thrown into the den right now. Do you think he is the one we're going to keep going with forward, or is there a signing coming soon? I mean, the window's still open. There's keepers available, especially obviously the one that we aforementioned, Steve Clark, who obviously would be, some people think logically, the easiest person to go and pick up and give him a couple of weeks to warm back up and get back in shape and all that good stuff. Your opinion, Andres, on the goalkeeping situation and what we might do or what we should do moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's gonna go with someone that has enough experience to cover the Dynamo at this point. Obviously, a lot of people have been highlighting the fact that Steve Clark still doesn't have a job yet, which is like probably the easiest choice you can do. But it really depends on the situation. Obviously, payroll comes to mind, and whatever else happens, and of course, if Steve is up for that. And of course, like we do have a lot of people saying, "Hey, Drake Callender in Miami is trying to move on," and of course, that probably just take more resources, even though he has a ton of experience. That probably will be ideal. It really depends, but I feel like they're just gonna go out to get someone with experience because I don't think Blake Gillingham or Pedro Cruz are ready, especially since they just got here as a second string, and probably it'd just be best to have like someone with experience to start and have Jamie Maurer as like just to cover bench just in case.
So I mean, if I'm giving you the Pat Onstand role, if I'm giving you his shoes to wear for a day, what direction are you going as far as goalkeeping? I mean, obviously Drake Calendar's a interesting name, obviously, but that might cost you a little bit and possibly some assets, to get him over. Even though he is the number 2 in Inter Miami right now, and obviously he's has been involved with the U.S. men's national team as well. So I mean, he is somebody that's there available. Like we said, for Steve Clark, who's obviously familiar with the club and everything, and depending on how he's managed to keep himself in shape over the offseason, whether or not he's in full retirement mode or he's still hoping to catch on with the club. I'm not sure of his situation right now. Or like you said, do we just roll with Maurer for a couple of games and see how he does, and maybe we have maybe we have a little bit of good luck and he's actually a decent enough keeper to keep us afloat for a couple of games, so that way we don't have to make such a drastic decision.
Honestly, it would take a lot of resources if obviously we go out to the market and try to convince one of the teams to give us one of the goalkeepers, because they look at the situation, they're like, okay, they're probably looking at a temporary goalkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
We're probably just gonna try and get as much game as possible.
Yeah,
which it could be a reality, but I feel like they might go with someone that doesn't have a club right now. They've been looking at a lot of players that do not have clubs or have like deals that are expiring or looking to prove the situation, which is what happened with like Dwayne Holmes just now. It could be different. Like it could just be that, but I feel like that's what Paronsa would do. He might just be leaning more towards the most affordable way possible, just based on the circumstances, especially with what we're trying to do with GAM, designated player situation, and more depth, because there's still a lot of holes left in this roster.
Yeah, maybe we can get a first ever GM goalkeeper on the pitch. Get Pat with the old gloves on there, the New Jersey on there. Get him out there doing a few reps out there. Maybe see what happens with that. Pull out maybe a new record of age for a goalkeeper in a professional league or something like that. But look, obviously, disappointing news, terrible news for the Dynamo faithful. Obviously, losing their number one keeper. So we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of news and rumblings of players incoming and players that have been rumored with, but I haven't heard anything about it as far as goalkeeping goes. But I mean, like I said, anything happen, right? Anything happen. A couple hours pass by and we'll see what happens. And hopefully we get to get more of an understanding of what the club is thinking moving forward as far as the goalkeeper position. But let's get back to the MLS League season, Andres. As you mentioned, we played RSL, a 2-1 loss at home again. So that makes us 0-3 at home. 0 points, 3 losses, 3 goals scored, 8 goals allowed. It's got to pull them out again. Not good. Not good at all.
Not good at all. My same experience this past 3 games at home.
Yes. Home sweet home. Nope. Home unsweet home, as we're gonna call it for this segment. Obviously some good points. Obviously, Ponce scoring his first goal for the season, getting off the 0 mark. Bassi having the confidence to shoot the way he shot that goal, which was a great goal, and obviously, unfortunately, got called back on the offside, supposedly player interference by Ponce. Which, when we all look back at the replay, I'm not a professional referee. I don't sit behind the screens and Dallas for VAR for MLS like a lot of referees do. But in my opinion, and a lot of opinions of people who are not primarily Dynamo invested, where's the offside? Are saying where's the offside? Where was the interference? The keeper saw the shot the whole way. All Ponce did was just turn his head to see the ball go by. Made no movement, made no physical movement towards the ball, made no movement to detract the goalkeeper from going a certain type of way. But unfortunately, as we've seen in past seasons, the refs are not too good to the Dynamo. Andres, your opinion on that call, man, and how it might have changed the fortunes of the Dynamo, because once that goal was scored, man, we were on our way. But then, again, typical Dynamo in the start of the season, our bad luck is just weighing hard on us right now.
Yeah, just going back to the call, I was there in person, and from where we were sitting, it was a little bit tough to see if the call was right or not, because it was happening. We did score the goal. VAR check took like about 3 or 4 minutes, probably 3 minutes, and the referee overturned the goal, which at the time I was like, okay, I have to check this one out, because this is one of the rare calls in soccer when it comes to like obstructing the view of the keeper of the shot. And these type of calls barely get called because like those are so difficult. And the way that VAR is set up is to, obviously there's like 4 different ways to actually force the VAR check. And I'm guessing they mostly just did it because of how the goal was scored, because they automatically check like all the goals no matter what.
Yeah, every scoring situation.
But then there's like a clear and obvious error, which I don't think it was clear or obvious, but it just came down to just checking the procedure, like how the goal went down. And honestly, I felt like the call itself was harsh. They definitely took their time the referee definitely took its time to check out the entire play and to demonstrate that the keeper didn't have a clear view of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Even when Ponce was trying to get back in line because he thought he had possession of the ball at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that was harsh. I feel like that was a pretty bad call, and I could just be saying it because of bias, but not really. I try not to do that because it's difficult to be a referee, and when you have these type of tools, especially VAR with like other referees checking that. Obviously, they gave the recommendation to check VAR. The referee has the final decision on that, and it's real fortunate. I feel like that was a goal. The goalkeeper did have a pretty good view of the shot itself. Justice Ponce was just like a little bit like towards the middle, not exactly like in his middle of the view, but he like the goalkeeper was like at an angle. He has a pretty bad position to like send the shot either way, but yeah, like it's just unfortunate, and at this point it's kind of like what pro does every single week.
Sure. So when I first saw, I was watching it from home. To be honest, I was stunned at first because obviously I don't expect Bassi to shoot from outside the box, right?
Right.
So when I saw it go in and I saw the way Ponce's head moved, I was like, oh, that ball must have scraped his foot or something like that to kind of angle to the way it went. So I was like, okay, that's what I initially thought it was before I saw the replay of the whole thing, right? And when I saw the replay, I was like, oh wait, Ponce turned his head, but the ball was nowhere near him. It didn't scrape him or touch him or anything, So once I saw that, I was like, oh, it's a goal. It's a clear goal. He's not in the way. You can see it from the point of view of behind the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper has enough vision. There's enough distance between him and Ponce to where he's not in any kind of way distracting or opposing the visual for the goalkeeper. So I'm like, okay, this goal easy, whatever. They're gonna look over it because it's a goal scoring. It's a scoring opportunity and blah blah blah. They're just gonna do their due diligence and that's gonna be that. But then it kept rolling and then okay, VAR checks is done. They hit the ref. Hey, go take a look at it yourself. I'm like, what else could they be looking for? In my opinion, I'm like, what else are they looking for? Why is it taking so long? And then, like I said, majority of Dynamo fans and maybe majority of casual, just MLS fans or soccer fans who just happen to be watching the game, and obviously for those who watched the replay over and over again, just the sheer shock of it being called back, man, and just how much it kind of changed the momentum of the game in a bit. Obviously Dynamo were battling uphill. The first goal was scored by RSL, then Ponce scored, and then and then obviously the Bassi goal would have made it 2-1, and then quickly how things just been happening, man. Things go wrong our way, and it can't just be one thing that goes wrong. It has to be a whole collapse, and that's what happened. And then obviously RSL takes advantage. A great cross, a great shot by I forgot who did it, but obviously and Diego Luna ends up at the end of it to head it home and take the 2-1 lead, and obviously take the game from the Dynamo to continue our winless start at home. But unfortunate events, man. Unfortunate events. My question to you, Andres, about the game. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, great to see Ponce finally score his goal. But any other bright spots from this game that you can take as far as like a glass half full type of deal?
It's tough to at this point like not come out with a win for like the past 3 games at home, and especially after this type of result, because you can see a goal in 45 seconds, and then you're still playing from behind for like the past couple of games at home as well.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, it's mostly because his team is still trying to get adjusted. It's fairly new in the sense that they've already lost a lot of key pieces that held them together, especially last year. But you look at it and the progress and like everything that happened in the off season, it really leaves like a bad taste in your mouth, because you had all this time to figure it out. The timing of all the players leaving was not ideal, and granted, it is a business at the end of the day, and the team has to be ready for it. And it's really disappointing, because I had like a lot of faith with Panels and Asher Melderson to do things and to have this team ready by the time the season started, because I was more afraid that this type of situation was going to happen. And I was pretty vocal of my approval for Pat and Asher, and I still am. It's just a matter of just having like the worst start in franchise history, like after 4 games. Yeah. Definitely not ideal. And even though there's like a ton of season left to turn things around, like for me, I feel like after watching these few games that I was very favorable for like Pat and Asher, and I still trust them, but I feel like they missed the mark here. And granted, we also have to deal with like injuries. We're missing out on players that can definitely change the game for us, but the timing of everything was kind of bad, and I feel like they were not ready to address that, or honestly just provide a type of short-term or long-term solution for a long run.
Yeah. I can't help but to agree fully on what you just said. But speaking of missing pieces, we are going to be missing another piece this upcoming game against Seattle. Our very own, our biggest acquisition this offseason, Jack McGlynn, has been called up to the USA's men's national team as a last minute called up to replace who's he replacing? I forgot who got hurt.
I can look it up real quick, but
he's replacing somebody. So in the meantime, while Andres looks up who he's replacing, obviously our very own Jack McGlynn, who we known has been a U.S. men's national team player for a couple of games now, handful of games. He is getting the opportunity to participate in the Nations League semifinals, which happened today against Panama. I haven't had the opportunity to look at the game if he got any minutes today or anything, or if he just stayed on the bench. But unfortunately for us, it means we don't have Mr. McGlynn available to us when we go up to Seattle to face the Sounders. Obviously you're happy for the players to go out there and represent their national teams. It's a huge achievement. It's a huge, exposure for the player to go out there and play these international games, especially with their national teams, and obviously the Nations League being something fairly new and something so dominated by the USA men's national team since its inception. Sorry. It's obviously a great learning experience for Jack McGlynn, and hopefully it makes him a better player going up there training with players who are abroad, playing for Italy, playing for England, playing in Germany and stuff like that. Seeing something different as far as training sessions go, aside from what's going on with the Dynamo and stuff like that, and just give him a breath of fresh air, because obviously him coming in to a new environment with the Dynamo, and unfortunately what's going on with the Dynamo, it's not leaving a good taste in a mouth of any player, right? Especially a young player who has a lot of upside and a lot of ceiling to show, but obviously he still needs a little bit of time to adapt with his new teammates. But gives him an opportunity to go out there, and just kind of kick around with the best of the best for the USA. So, Andres, your thoughts about McGlynn joining the USA men's national team, and just the thoughts of not having him for the next game against Seattle, which obviously it's an unfortunate a game that we're gonna have here against Seattle, which that doesn't look good for us, particularly well for us turning it around and try to grab some points. But your thoughts on McGlynn with the USA's men's national team?
It was expected. Like we've seen this coming since we signed him, that he was going to be featured with the USMNT national team in some capacity. Initially, we weren't worried as much because he wasn't called up, but because of the injuries, I believe it was for either Brian Gutierrez or Johnny Cardoso or Anthony Robinson. That he was called up. Yeah, Cardoso. Yeah, it was mostly an injury replacement player, and I didn't watch the Panama game. I think I should spoil it right now. But McGlynn was subbed on the second half. I believe it was around the 65th minute, if I'm not mistaken. And Panama scored the winner in the 92nd minute.
Who scored the winner?
And I can tell you that Coco got the assist.
Damn,
I think it was Waterman, bro. I think it was Waterman, the striker. I believe it's the striker for Panama. But yeah, he's still gonna be playing the third place game since Panama beat the USMNT national team, and it's gonna be against the loser between I believe it's Mexico and Canada, and yeah, I believe that game is gonna be on Sunday. So yeah, because of that, he's gonna be missing this game against Seattle. It's gonna be massive. We have, like you said, we haven't won in Seattle yet. So it's going to be a massive ask to get a result here, especially coming out of playoffs last year and really just being in Seattle at any point in the past decade. So
yeah, so I was gonna go ahead and talk about some positive news figures first, but let's keep with the negative stuff for a little bit, just so that way we can get all that stuff out the way. Obviously, this Saturday we're going to play Seattle, and Seattle. I think it's just they still call it Lumen Field, if I'm not mistaken. But obviously, our record there is not too pretty at all since Seattle's joined the league in 2009. Andres, how many wins have the Dynamo had in Seattle since 2009?
0.
Damn. Big fat 0. I mean, there's a first time for everything, right?
Yeah, we did it against Vancouver last year. That's our first win there.
Yeah, there's a first time for everything, but not counting the ties that we had with them in the playoffs, that we've had a couple ties in playoff matches, we've only managed to grab 2 points since 2009 from Seattle Sounders. So pretty tall mountain to climb if we're looking to grab some more points off here. But I mean, look, it's bound to turn around for us at some point, right? Like, I mean, can Diesel find a nut and get a couple of points? A point. I mean, look, I was surprised he got the point in Columbus, right? But obviously, given the circumstances of what's going on with Columbus as well, hey, a point in Columbus is a point. Is a point. Can we do the same thing in Seattle? Can we just hold it down to where we don't go out there and just make a fool of ourselves and maybe just play some amazing defense and and if we can get a goal, great. Hey, that'd be great. But if just go out there and just work for that point, do you think that's a possibility? I mean, I would want to play for the win, but I mean, I think I'm asking too much for a team that's been too depleted with injuries. Obviously, transactions that players have gone, and obviously, with call-ups as well. Can we get a point, Andres? Can we get a point?
We can, but they essentially have to play the perfect game against Seattle, and it's gonna come down to defense mostly, like we saw against Columbus. I feel like this game can be a little bit different. Obviously, Seattle can definitely stretch our marks, and they're gonna once again try to catch us flat-footed and look for those type of opportunities. And with this back line, it's definitely concerning because, like we've seen it in a few more games, they have a tendency to just be out of sync. Which obviously for a back line, that's just inexperience, or like not inexperience, but rather just not that there's not enough chemistry in between them that they understand what they have to do. Because for like the past few games that I've seen, that's definitely been an issue. And Columbus with the exception, because that I feel like that was probably the best defensive performance of the season so far. But it's gonna take a perfect game. Obviously, if we're talking 3 points, it's gonna take more than that. And by more than that, I mean scoring goals or one. And it's gonna be that type of thing that they have to find a way to open up the game a little bit, or try to catch Seattle, or like having Seattle like playing the game Seattle is playing against us in a way, because Seattle's gonna be looking for those spaces. Houston will need to figure out a way to bypass the double marking like that Ponce gets almost every single game, or try to break through the lines, because this team is just like seems afraid to. Whenever they're in the final third, they just try to like break it inside the box, and because the tendency falls around crossing the ball and seeing what happens, which tends to work, especially since we have some pretty good fullbacks that can assist, and obviously the winger situation is different with Anali or Quinones. So it's tough.
Yeah, this. I mean, this look. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I mean, obviously Seattle's always a good environment. Big crowds always. I think it's they always 30,000 plus in there. Loyal fans and stuff like that, and the atmosphere is so amazing. And very few cities do you go to and have an atmosphere like that. Around MLS. And when you go to those type of atmospheres, being the visiting team, the best thing that you can do is to keep them quiet, right? Because they're gonna be loud, they're gonna be rowdy, they're gonna be good, ready to go. And I think one of the fortunate things for us is, even though this Seattle Sounders team is loaded up front with I guess kind of quote unquote names. I mean, obviously I think Ariola's out for the season. He got injured, right? They got Jesus Ferreira, they got Jordan Morris, Rusnek. I'm missing somebody up. I'm missing somebody important. I can't think of it.
Roth last year did so much damage against us. Like I think Roth, if I'm not mistaken, but yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, De La Vega as well. But obviously those players. This is not your atypical strong Seattle Sounders team that we've seen of the past. With Rowan Diaz and Ladero, or the one with Dempsey and Martin, and player and Seattle Sounders of those capabilities, right? But given the fact that these are veteran players in MLS who have scored in MLS, and who have success in MLS with prior teams and with Seattle as Morris goes and Rusnik and De La Vega, they're still a very capable team, right? And obviously at home, they're wanting to go out there and just cause rampage. And look, the Dynamo right now is that gazelle that's just out there in the open field, and it has a broken hoof. It's easy prey, and everybody just wants to go and score as many goals on them as possible, and annihilate that little gazelle as badly as possible. And I think that's where the Dynamo have to take pride in themselves and go out there and show that, hey, look, you might eat me, you might defeat me, but it's gonna take you a while. I'm gonna go out with a fight, at least. You can't just go out there and just let them score 5 on us and then just call it a day. Nah, that's not what this is for. You have to have a little bit of pride, and you have to play for the crest, on your chest and stuff like that. So, like I said, unfortunately, the Dynamo are going into this game very depleted, and things of that nature. But from what I hear, Andres, from what I'm being told, and from what I hear on the socials, that help might be coming along the way. Some kind of help in the offensive side of the ball. Rumors are they're still looking for some defensive help as well. 3 players have been mentioned. One player has really, really been mentioned. Even the great Tom Bogut has mentioned the fact that he might be coming on here pretty soon. Maybe not for this game, maybe not in time for this game against Seattle, but maybe in time for the next game afterwards. But one old, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right, Ondrej Lingr from Slavia Prague, who at the current moment is an attacking midfielder who fits the profile of the attacking 10 that we've been hoping for, may be coming in pretty soon on a transfer fee of $2.6 million per sources. Your thoughts on Ondrej Lingr, or what you've been able to look up on him? I know he had a little bit of a stint in Feyenoord and things of that nature. So obviously he's a well-rounded player as far as playing in the Dutch league, and I think playing in the playing in the Dutch league. So your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Ondrej Lingr, at least that's how I think it's pronounced too. I think it's definitely a 10, and we need that. we desperately need a player that's just not afraid to break the defensive lines and also is able to create those plays. And I did have to see some highlights to see what we're trying to work with, and it could definitely be different, like here in MLS. But the one thing that stood out to me is just the fact that he's not afraid to take shots, and this is something that the team also needs, which is great. And it's whenever Tarbell announced it, I believe the fee is around like $2.6 million. It's going to be a designated player, and the numbers stat wise, like as of the most recent season, are not ideal. I don't think he has like a ton of goals, like after like over 10 games.
Only one goal right now. At the moment.
At the moment, which is there's like fans that are concerned about that, and of course things can change over the course of the season and in a new environment. But it's more about the question as to how fast he can fit into the system and how is he going to contribute. Because I feel like as a 10, he can definitely just be a type of player that we need, or the piece that is missing for this team to work offensively. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm not gonna really like start hating on him because he hasn't shown up yet. I'm still gonna root for him no matter what, and I'm gonna criticize him when there's enough time. Like enough time has passed with the team, of course.
Yeah, for sure. I think the question that I've been asked a lot, as far as as soon as this player has been mentioned and obviously linked to us, and it looks like it has a lot of legs, as our friend Glenn Davis would say.
Legs.
I've been asked, is this the DP10 that we've been promised? I mean, I understand that he's going to be a DP at the moment because of the transfer fee. Is he commanding the type of salary to be considered a legit DP player for this league? The standard of that we're trying to portray to the rest of the league, to let the league know that, hey, the Houston Dynamo are in fact progressing team that's looking forward to competing with the best of the best in the league, and eventually competing for MLS Cups and supporter shields. Is this the player that's gonna does he fit the profile that we were hoping for? Because I mean, to be honest, like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, I'm familiar with the player, blah blah blah, this and that. I looked him up the same way everybody else has. I've seen the highlight reels or whatever. I've seen where he's played and stuff like that. And like I said, I understand the reasoning for him being a DP because of the transfer fee and all that stuff, and because we have that spot available. But is he the DP10 that we've been waiting for, or is he just the person at this moment to cover the needs that we need at this moment? Whereas, when the summer window opens, he gets bought down, and then we actually go after our true DP playmaker, whether it's still a DP10 or just a DP playmaker. You know, what are your thoughts on that, Andres?
It could honestly be the latter, and it could honestly just be like the type of player that could work this year. And I feel like a lot of people were expecting that type of game changer, kind of like a Lucha Costa or Evander, that was just going to come in and change offenses completely.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the transfer fee makes it a little bit underwhelming because people were expecting like someone that was like a high value that has been producing a lot in recent times. And Ondrej Lingr, of course, with the numbers right now, it doesn't look ideal. So a lot of people are resorting to his current record. And like I said initially, it really, things can definitely change in MLS. Like in the right situation, he can just be like a different player. Because it worked out for different players whenever they're somewhere else. They fit in a system that benefits them, and they're able to like take advantage of his abilities. But that's all obviously remains to be seen, and we'll definitely have to see it play out whenever he comes in. Since Tom reported already, I'm pretty sure it's probably gonna be another week or so until he's announced officially. He might not even play a game until like probably 3 weeks, probably less. But it's really gonna depend on how long it takes to get here or announced, and see how he prepares. And I'm saying that because we need a 10 right now, and we need bodies, honestly.
Yeah. No, look, I agree. Look, obviously the numbers and the statistics right now currently aren't as eye popping as we would hope. You know, obviously a $2 million transfer fee doesn't sound like that much of a big deal. You know, especially after we paid $7 for Ponce and almost $5 for Sebastian Ferreira prior to that. You know, so I don't know what type of player is. I mean, we're hoping that we're getting a player, right? We're hoping we're getting somebody who's going to be motivated to come into a situation where we're giving him basically the keys to the club and be that attack-minded player that is able to connect with Ponce and just score goals and create chances, right? Look, I'm always for looking for those players who are diamonds in the rough. Don't get me wrong, you know, when you can find a cheap player and just make that player shine through, you know, through obviously training and building him up, building his profile up, that's amazing, right? But the unfortunate thing about the situation that the Dynamo are in right now, diamonds in the rough right now, it's not the game we should be playing. We need diamonds that shine brightly right now because we are so depleted. We are so far behind, and you know, and it's frustrating. I mean, it's frustrating because look, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, I know all, be all, or I have sources and things of that. No, I'm a Dynamo supporter. I'm a Dynamo fan who is just happens to be in front of a camera talking Dynamo because I love this team and I want to, you know, support this team as much as possible. And then look, when I want to be critical about them, I want to be critical about them, and when I want to applaud them, I want to be able to applaud them, you know, and things of that nature. And it just I hate the fact that, you know, that we had the start of the season. We're 4 games in deep, and we're struggling like this because not because the team chemistry isn't there. It's because of the lack of players and the loss of the player talent the talent pool has been depleted from us, you know, and we have and the front office in the club has not properly refurnished it, you know. And that's it. Realistically, that's it. I mean, there's just no other reason. I mean, for as much as I want to place blame to the coaching staff or Ben Olsen, I can't. Like, you know, Ben Olsen is just a sitting duck out there. I mean, you know, like I mean, I can be that one of those frustrated fans to be like, yo, change your tactics, you know, change your formations, try to you know, build a formation surrounding the players that you have at the moment with the talent that you have, but there isn't any talent under this. There, you know, like it's an unfortunate thing, and Yeah, I mean, it's frustration. Obviously the fact that Lingr seems to be a player that is for sure going to be coming to the Dynamo here pretty soon. That's obviously a great thing. I'll mention the two other players that were mentioned that were linked to us here. I don't know how true these are, but they are players that have been mentioned alongside with the club. So we'll see if anything happens with those other two. But yeah, man, we need bodies, but we need bodies with talent. We can't. I don't need another another bench warmer, per se, that just is going to pretend to play starter. So we'll see what happens. And like I said, I hopefully, after he signs, and obviously the visa issue, gets resorted and all that good stuff, he comes in and he doesn't need that much time to adapt. But that's the bad thing about bringing the new players during the season, because you have to allow them time to adapt to the new surroundings and to build up chemistry with the players, because they're used to playing one way, the players are used to playing another way. It might take him a while to get to have an understanding of what Olsen wants or expects from him as far as in his system, and things like that. So hopefully they were able to look at this player and his profile long enough to the point where, we think that this player doesn't need a significant amount of time to adapt to the league and to adapt to the team. So we'll see what happens. Let me throw you the other two names out before we move on. Andres, another attacking player. Now, this name I might butcher. I'm going to butcher this name real bad. But it's Abdelkahar Kadrid, Algerian player who plays in Belgium right now, currently for KV Korte in the Jupiter Pro League. Another attacking player who has been linked with the Dynamo, obviously kind of the same profile as Lingr. So maybe now that Lingr is more across the line, maybe they're not looking at this player, or maybe he is another player who can come in and maybe help along with the attacking deficiencies that the Dynamo have at the moment. But right now, he has 23 games under his belt, 1 goal and 6 assists. So he, not big numbers, but as far as assists goes, he's out there providing opportunities for his players up front to be able to score. So I don't know if you had a chance to look this player up or anything like that, but nothing too crazy. Algerian international, has played with Algeria and their international team, their national team, a handful of times. So just a name and a player to look out for. Who knows, right? Who knows? Anything that you want to add for Kadri?
Like, honestly, like outside of Lingr, the other names floating around on Twitter, I'm not really like holding on to hope right now until someone else that's reputable reports it as a rumor.
Yeah.
Obviously, if like someone like Tom, for example, reports on it, it's pretty much true.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting for it, like, because the sources that I saw floating around Twitter.
Like I said, these are just names that I saw linked. Obviously, it's not. Obviously, if Tom, says it, then it's for real. But these are just kind of players who have been linked through other sources, maybe not the most trustworthy sources, or maybe not, or sources that we just haven't heard of before, but just names. A defender has been linked, Mariano Torrillo, who's an Argentine center back, who currently plays for Belgrano and first division for Argentina. Just some more defensive help. Obviously, we right now our defense is lacking. It's very poor right now. So obviously, we can get if we can get some more defensive help to come help, that'd be great as well. Because obviously, like I mentioned in the beginning of the show, with Mikael being transferred out, Eric, unfortunately starting the season, injured. Escobar trying to work his way back. I know we got Andrade, and he obviously showcased a little bit yesterday against Salvador, and we'll talk about that here in a bit. So obviously we're trying to make the defense formidable again. So hopefully, we'll see. Hey, like I said, these names are just names players that have been linked. Nothing for sure aside from Lingr. Just players and rumors. Obviously the window's still open for MLS, and obviously when we can hear rumors of players potentially coming to the Dynamo, we want to look them up and make sure that to see how truthful that can be. So, but anything on the Argentine player, Andres, before we move on?
We could definitely use a defender right now. And if this rumor were to be true, I feel like this will be a pretty good addition. So it's just a matter of seeing how it goes. I haven't done research with it in those type of players yet that were just mentioned, so I'm just gonna wait for it.
For sure. Andres, yes, last night, the Houston Dynamo faced their first national team ever, and El Salvador, La Selecta, came in last night, played against the Dynamo, and the Dynamo actually won at home, 2-1. Against El Salvador.
Yay.
So hey, good. Hey, any kind of positive news, right? Unfortunately, I mean, obviously the game wasn't streamed anywhere unless you had Canal 4 for El Salvador, whatever this and that. I did not have the opportunity to go to the game, nor did I have the opportunity to watch the game. Andres, did you watch the game or any kind of way, or did you just process it through social media or through Discord or anything like that?
Yeah, I couldn't watch it live whatsoever. I think somebody posted that there was like a link to a stream through like a app from El Salvador.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do that. I mostly just watched the highlights after because the Dynamo posted highlights in the press release, and obviously it didn't tell the story for the whole game. So I'm not really gonna say I don't really have an opinion on it. But
so the goal scorers were Diego Gonzalez scored the first goal, and I was gonna say Pablo Escobar, Franco Escobar, Franco Escobar scoring the second off a corner kick from Nicolas Ladero. My first thing, I saw the highlights of the goals, obviously first and foremost, but I couldn't help to notice just the beautiful corner kick that Nicolas Ladero gave to set up the scoring, for Franco Escobar on that goal, which made me think, look, coming in, I heard that Jack McGlynn was a corner kick master. Obviously, he had the assist for the Ponce goal on a free kick against RSL. But as far as corner kicks go, I haven't seen anything special. I've seen nothing great as far as corner kicks go from McGlynn. And obviously, Nicolas Lodero, seeing him on there do that makes me think, hey, maybe I want to see him kicking corner kicks from here on out, just for the next period of time, because those are just wasted opportunities that I feel that we're just giving up as far as set pieces go. Just your thoughts on that, Andres, as far as Nicolas Lodero may be taking over the corner kicks here in the immediate future for the Dynamo over Jack McGlynn.
Yeah, like the corners from Jack have been like very inconsistent, or just like he definitely like
very far. He kicks over everybody.
Literally, like I was gonna say that because like either those go over or those are like too short for Houston to do anything about it.
Yeah,
and it's fine if they do like a change of scenery for the time being. Lodero's definitely the type of veteran that we need in this team right now, so it's definitely useful. And I'm also just looking forward to talk about the first goal for the Dynamo because man,
go ahead,
man, well, man, like, and this is obviously when they started losing in 1-0 in the first 5 minutes, and Diego Gonzalez, man, like Dynamo, those captain, that I 100% believe he deserves a shot in the first team at this point because of some amazing seasons with those so far. For me, that goal, man, that kind of sealed it for me because he was in a position where I think he received like a deep pass from a Jimmy Maurer. I forgot who gave him the ball. It might have been Dorsey or somebody else. But yeah, he was able to receive a lucky bounce from another Dynamo player, and he was able to find an opening from outside the box. And the ball did like this bounce that if you play soccer like in middle school or high school, like if you get that type of bounce and you're open, there's a good chance you can just do like a volley strike that is gonna go straight to the net if you shoot it correctly. He did that, and he literally shot it and went to the far post, and it was magical. Like, it was right outside the box, and it was beautiful.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it comes to a point where, like, look, unfortunately, we have all these circumstances lined up. And, I mean, look, you hear around the league, right, Andres? Calvin Sullivan for the Union, 15-year-old player playing first-team football for Philadelphia Union. Alfonso Davies, when he was with MLS, 16 years old, playing for Vancouver Whitecaps, coming up. Obviously going way back with Freddy Adu and DC United and things like that nature, right? You have so many examples of youth, young, super young players, teenage players playing first team minutes for clubs who are stacked and who are doing great on their team for the team, but yet they still find a way to interact the youth. Look, Seattle Sounders a couple of years ago were in the midst of supporters of battling for the supporter shield, and I think half their squad was youth players, academy players at one point. Playing. I mean, just doing their thing. Given the opportunity, they grabbed the bull by the horns and started doing their thing. When is the Dynamo gonna go into that kind of form where look? Right now, it's more a need than a want, right? I don't like I said, if the team was stacked and we're loaded and we're guns blazing, and it's whatever. Look, I can understand why Diego Gonzalez or Brooklyn Reigns or Exxon or whatever other young prospect you think could come and help is being pushed back. Look, if we're a veteran team, we're guns blazing. We're out here trying to fight for every cup and title that we can possibly get our hands a hold of. I understand, but in the situation we're in right now, this is the perfect situation to allow those players to come in and see what they can prove. Hey, man, Lord willing, one of them is actually really, really good, and he just happens to be super young, and he can put a spark and put a fire underneath this team, and make something happen. Lord forbid that happen for us with such a youthful player, right? And whether it's a Gonzalez or an Exxon or an Ali when he comes back or whoever it might be, we need to allow these players the opportunity to play, especially in the situation we're in right now where we don't have bodies. Like, look, do I really need a Junior Uso? No disrespect to Junior Uso, right? Great player, professional, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Do I really need a Junior Uso playing 60 minutes at 36 years old? I mean, let me give those 60 minutes to Diego Gonzalez or Brooklyn Reigns, and let's see what they can do. They're hungry. They want to prove themselves as professionals. They're doing it in Dynamo Dose, so now they want to do it in the first team. Give them the opportunity. If they can't handle it, or if the brights are too bright for them, then okay. You give them another shot, another game, whatever. And if it's too much, then okay, fine. Then we see that they're not ready for it. But I can't sit here and tell you that they're not ready for it because they're never given the opportunity. Andres, I mean, your thoughts. I mean, look, like I said, with all the respect to the veteran players that we signed, like Uso, Stairs and things like that. Obviously, Ali Yu and Ladero. But if Exxon or Diego Gonzalez or Brooklyn Reigns is given the opportunity, I would much rather have them out there.
Yeah, me too. And we're at the point of the season where we have to start thinking outside the box to get things going. And I've said a few more times already that it's still a long season and this team can improve over time with the roster they have. But honestly, like you said, like having players that are just hungry to get that professional experience, like especially Diego Gonzalez, which is the type of player that has proven enough to get the call. Like, it will be pretty massive, and that's definitely something that those players are looking out for. And this is the same path that Mikael took. Remember that Mikael started out first as a Dose player, and whenever he came up, like his first few games were just really bad. and he kept playing, like he kept getting opportunities with the first team, and he just evolved, and we turn a profit on him for like millions of dollars, which is obviously the thing that he was looking out for, or like the club is looking out for, to like turn a profit on players, which is business. But it's it's obviously a type of business that the Dynamo are just looking to do, or just like develop players over time to see what they can do with them. And I feel like Diego Gonzalez could be that next player that can just be that presence on the team that can change things for them, or just be that presence in the midfield that's just going to be a constant threat.
Yeah, great example. I mean, look, you got Mikael for pennies on the dollar. He comes in, Dynados does okay, then goes for Dynamo, and now he's playing for arguably the biggest Brazilian club at this moment. And Palmeiras. It's I mean, it can happen, guys. It can happen. Pat Onstad said so himself. They're looking for the next Stuart Holden, that next player from the Houston area to kind of be like that home, that they're homegrown, to call their own, Diego Gonzalez is the closest person that we have to that at this moment. So why not give him the opportunity, and to showcase that, and like I said, if he fails, okay, you give him as many opportunities as he can, and hopefully you hope that he prevails and he becomes better. And if he doesn't, he just doesn't. But it showcases the fact that us as an organization is not afraid to give the youth an opportunity, and thus that would be more advantageous for the youth, for the Dynamo Dos, and for the academies to see that and allow players to come into our academies and play for Dynamo Dos, to see, for them to see firsthand and like, oh, this club is really serious about giving minutes to their homegrowns and to the players that come through the system. That's all a youth player ever wants, an opportunity, a pathway to the first team of the professional league. That's all a youth player ever wants from an academy. So, but we'll see what happens, especially with McGlynn not being there. Maybe he makes the match day 18 for Ben Olsen this weekend against Seattle, or maybe he gets to call up for the first team. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But before we go, Andres, I gotta ask the question I've been asking the last couple of weeks. Okay, and I need you to answer me truthfully with no bias. Be as truthful as possible. Okay. Are the Dynamo the worst team in MLS right now?
On paper, it's getting there, and I do believe that it really comes down to strength of schedule and the situation of each club. But on paper, we technically are close to one of the worst teams in the league right now, and it really speaks to how the team has been able to, or hasn't been able to, approach like each game how they wanted to play. It's been a lot of personal mistakes and just a lack of focus on the game that has to set the Dynamo back this early in the year. It can happen, like it can change, sure, but we're gonna have to see it, and we've got 30 games to go.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's only two clubs in the entire league who have scored less goals than us, and that is, ironically, the MLS Cup champions LA Galaxy with 2 goals up to this point, and New England Revolution, who picked up a huge striker this offseason, and Leo Campana, who hasn't worked out for them at this moment yet. So, yeah, I mean, as far as worst, I think, man, it's tough because we had such high expectations, right? Because of what we were dealing with and what kind of club we were, the last 2 years, but obviously any club with the loss of talent that we've had, I mean, how can you expect to be anything but just be down in the bottom of the table? But I hope that sometime during this season, I will be able to change that question of are we the worst team in MLS to are we a playoff bound team in the MLS? So we'll see what happens. But guys, obviously coming to the end of the show, great times. Unfortunately, like I said, another loss at home to RSL and league play, a win against El Salvador. So hopefully that shows a little bit of confidence for the guys and this and that. Before we go, Andres, where can these guys catch us up at? Give out the socials.
Yeah, so all season long at Dynamic Foxtrot, we're going to be on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Also on X, we do have the handle called Noodle Tiempo, which we provide all the news for you guys all season long. That just started. Those started a while back as well, which means we do have 3 teams to cover this year once again. So we kicked into high gear just now. All 3 teams are playing this weekend, so look forward to that because we have a ton of coverage for you guys. And also, wherever you're listening to the podcast, I just search Noodle Tiempo in your favorite podcast platform. We're gonna be there, and you're probably listening to this already. So we do appreciate the support already. And if you want to watch some video form, as always, we're gonna be on YouTube and Goals TV. If you look up Foxtrot TV, all of our episodes of the podcast are going to be there, as well as special features that we'll do in the future. And yeah, honestly, just a word of the wise. Just find the Noodle Man. You're gonna see it, and we're gonna have you covered for the rest of the year. It's gonna be a busy season like always. Of course, 3 teams to cover. It's gonna be just that. So it should be fun. Hopefully, Dynamo turn things around. We've still got 30 games to go, like I said previously. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, guys. Once again, thank you for the continued support. And like I said, I hopefully we can turn the ship around. We'll see what happens this weekend in Seattle. But with that being said, guys, regardless of what's going on, we're always gonna stay here and hold it down. Throw the Mages up.
Yes, sir.